Welcome, everybody, to this ChannelVision podcast. And today we're welcoming our good friends from Kings 3 Emergency Communications. In particular, we have their partner channel manager, his name, Kyle Orsburn. How you doing today, Kyle?
I'm good, Brady. How you doing, man?
Doing really well. And I'm excited to talk with you and learn a little bit more about Kings 3 and kind of get in the weeds there with it. To start out, if you could tell us a little bit about the company, kind of a background.
Kings 3, we're the industry leader and premier provider of emergency communications for elevator, pool, area of refuge, and blue light phones, and other things of the sort. We deliver the only true turnkey single source solution when it comes to emergency phones, monitoring, and dispatch.
So, what sort of challenges do property managers face in regards to emergency communications?
Yeah, sure. So at high level, they're either lacking or seeking peace of mind around possible emergencies, compliance, operational budget control, and liability exposure. I'll kind of dive into those a little bit. They might be hassling and finger pointing with multiple vendors for anything regarding the emergency phones, whether that be the internet and or phone provider, the elevator company, or maybe a third party monitoring company. We don't do anything third party. Everything is through us from the hardware to the support. Um, the maintenance on the equipment itself. A lot of times it's impossible to budget for broken equipment, such as the phone in the elevator cab, that's not covered under warranty. The elevator service company changes all the time and have the highest hourly rates out there in the nation, or among the highest hourly rates, I should say. Codes are ever changing, bringing new requirements in terms of who has to adopt them, how they're enforced. And it's just a challenge to stay on top of all that. So oftentimes they're seeking an expert to manage code compliance for those emergency phones. And then one of the other things, migrating off POTS lines. As we know in the industry, POTS lines are not necessarily dead, but antiquated and extremely expensive in some markets. Sometimes you'll still see them at a decent rate, but we've seen some pretty crazy numbers now. So migrating off those old POTS or analog or copper phone lines that we find in every elevator or emergency phone from years past. And yeah, just finding code compliant solutions, modern solutions that don't break the bank.
Definitely a lot of challenges there. Let's say I were to get stuck in an elevator, Kyle, maybe on my way to the office, and Kings 3 is the one monitoring that phone. So when I push the help button, what exactly happens?
Yeah, that's a good question. Something that I actually didn't really realize or think about prior to joining the Kings 3 team myself. We're kind of, trained and groomed never to touch that button. But yeah, what does happen if you do press it? So with Kings 3 providing our turnkey solution, once the button is pressed, um, right when the connection is made within seconds, the call recording begins. The phone is then answered again within 5 or so seconds is roughly our average right now. The account information is already populated to the dispatcher in our EDC, we call it, our emergency dispatch center. The address, the emergency call list, the elevator cab number, all the details that are one, code compliant, and two, extremely important, are automatically populated. Then our dispatcher answers the phone, word for word. Kings 3, what's your emergency? Our operators are trained to first identify if there's a medical emergency or not, which is another differentiator. We'll get to that, I'm sure, but we treat every single call as if it's an emergency. From there, if it is, we can dispatch emergency services. We can phone in the police or fire or whatever authorities are needed, EMS, and we are an authorized central station, so we can talk more on that. But we have essentially a direct line into these local authorities or who are other authorized central stations. So no holding times, no call waiting queues. We get right in. If it's not an emergency, operators walk the entrapped passengers, assuming it's an entrapment, through steps to hopefully get the elevator moving again. In many cases, it's a simple solution. It was a hiccup of the mechanical elevator. You may hold down a few buttons that the operator instructs you to, and then there you go, you're out. If not, then we would punch down the list and call whoever is needed, whether it be the elevator service company or whomever it is needed to help out. We then would call through the emergency contact list. Of course, once the call is over and everything, this is kind of our process running out. We would call through the emergency contact list. It's almost always the elevator service company first if there's a problem to go help out, and then likely property management and whomever else the customer defines. But no matter what, we do notify the property because you want to know if there's an entrapment on your property for a slew of reasons.
What are some of the things that set the company apart?
Yeah. So the main thing, Kings 3 assumes the liability that every single call that's placed is answered. We even go above and beyond here by naming customers if they desire on our umbrella policy in terms of the connection actually being made and the successful call being taken. We answer, again, as I mentioned, every single call is answered and assumed to be an emergency until we learn otherwise. That's a pretty big differentiator. We only answer emergency phones. It's all we do. It's our core competency, and it's also, again, the only thing that we do. Other services or companies, or I use the term competitors very loosely, if you will. But other services, they may or may not also be taking sales calls, service calls, just unrelated calls to actual emergencies. They may or may not have AEMD trained operators, which is the highest level of medical training that a phone operator can have, which we do, of course. They may or may not offer live language and dialect translation. I think we've got about 175 and growing languages and dialects that are automatically translated for users in the elevators that may not be English or Spanish as their first language. We like to say, what language do you swear in? And you could just imagine if you're under distress, if English or maybe Spanish isn't your first language, there's a lot of value there. And then being an authorized central station, that's a huge differentiator. Again, we don't go into the call queue of 911. We have a direct line into each local 911 being another authorized central station or EMS or fire. And then lastly, the biggest thing is, again, we provide the only true turnkey service for emergency communications versus having multiple vendors for one solution. It is, to my knowledge, still currently impossible to achieve this through a single vendor outside of Kings 3. You need a connection, you need the actual phone hardware, and then you need a monitoring company. A lot of times we find it's an elevator service company, maybe the local guard on site, whomever, but certainly not an authorized central station with medically trained operators.
All right, wow, and a whole lot. It sounds like a whole lot goes into that. Now, there's been a lot of buzz about the turnkey service that the Kings 3 offers. What's kind of included in that?
Yeah, for sure. Good question. So we include everything. That's why we call it turnkey. So first, the hardware. You need the phone, essentially a microphone and a speaker in the elevator cab. So we replace behind the door or wherever it is in that elevator cab, we replace the actual phone. We then use the existing wiring to probably the telco room or something or maybe the machine room. It's more often the telco closet or room, where we put our cellular dialer, and then there's lifetime warranty on all of the hardware, so that all the hardware is included. The labor is included, which is the install, of course, and any ongoing support or troubleshooting or help tickets. The service itself, meaning the dial tone. We've got a cellular dialer, a cellular connection, commercial grade. Of course, we've got a SIM card in there. The 24/7 monitoring and dispatch, as I mentioned, of the highest level medically trained operators. And then another thing that we kind of go above and beyond with is the automatic dial tone testing, just to ensure without you or the property manager or maintenance person doing that, weekly, monthly testing that the phones work, we do an auto dial tone testing. And then lastly, the maintenance. the phone, the dialer, upgraded SIM cards when networks sunset or upgrade, really everything. So for a monthly price per phone, we include everything. No hidden fees, no secrets, no nothing. So certainly a very valuable tool, or solution, I should say, for folks that want to control their operational budget with no surprises.
All right. Now, what would you consider to be the ideal type of partner for Kings 3?
Yeah, for sure. That's that's why we're here, right?
Right.
So we partner with a range of folks. From elevator companies, independent elevator companies, I should say, VoIP installers, fire service companies, telecom, IT, managed service providers, and a whole lot more. Because we can truly bring value to every single entity, if you will, in the country who has emergency phones. However, due to the maturity and partner onboarding process that we have, which is impressive coming from some different channel roles. We don't just sign anybody up. We look for partners that are actively searching for a solution to keep their customers compliant, and or mitigate risk in their business, as well as companies that are actively helping customers migrate off POTS lines. It's inevitable. That's we get a lot of business just due to the fact that POTS lines are going away. They're becoming extremely expensive, less reliable, no SLAs. It's inevitable. Everybody knows. So we definitely partner with folks that are helping customers migrate off POTS lines. Again, emergency phones are all that we do. So our partners really do like that we don't compete with them in any of their core services or any services whatsoever. They also, from that, reap greater account control and often wear the hero badge for bringing Kings 3 to the table. And lastly, this one of the very few companies, with spending over a decade in the channel myself now. It's one of the very few companies in the channel that I personally know of where the partner's commission is the absolute last thing on that partner's mind. Again, coming from a career in the channel, between MSPs and the telco space, it's really special to be able to say that.
Well, it sounds like a really fantastic proposition, Kyle. Now, for those who are going to be in attendance at CVX Expo, November 12th through 14th in Scottsdale, Arizona, they can stop by booth 5007 and get some more information. Check out everything that Kings 3 has going on. If people want information online, where can they go, Kyle?
They can go to our website, kings3.com, or I should say kingsiii.com. Our LinkedIn. You can find myself on LinkedIn, of course. That would probably be the best way if you're not going to be in attendance in Scottsdale in a few weeks, which I will certainly be there. Happy to shake hands and hang out with you folks.
Yes, I'm very excited. We're going to have a great time in Scottsdale. It'll be nice to finally meet you in person, Kyle. Thanks for the time.
Looking forward to it, Brady. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Of course, yeah, can't wait. So while you guys are online checking out Kings 3 and all the great stuff that they have going on, don't forget to also visit channelvisionmag.com. On there, you can find archived podcasts and CVTVs and webinars and white papers and just lots of great on-demand content right there on channelvisionmag.com. And on behalf of our good friends at Kings 3 Emergency Communications, this has been Channel Vision Podcast. Everybody take care.